Chicken wings have been turned into spicy buffalo wings for so long now that people can hardly think of what else to do with them. But before the invention of this ubiquitous bar food, chicken wings were prepared in a completely different and healthier way. In every video, I show you methods that you won't see elsewhere, and this is no exception. The chicken is either pressure cooked or braised without water or stock. The results are the most flavorful wings you've ever tasted, and you can still turn them into hot wings if that's what you want to do just by adding hot sauce at the end.
Tips rather. So we're going to take these tips off. These are not used in this recipe. You can bake them, roast them, and then make stock out of them, or you can just throw them. There's no meat on these, of course. And then these, in many chicken recipes, you would cut these in half. We're not going to do that here. We're going to leave them whole. We're keeping the seasonings for this quite simple. We have garlic powder, thyme, white pepper, ground white pepper, brown sugar, salt, and this is corn flour. You can use regular flour. Corn flour brings better texture and also a little sweetness from the corn into it. It's much preferred if you can get it. And because these are already basically ground, all we have to do is mix these together. Now I've got all the chicken. Here's the seasoning mix with the corn flour. It has to get mixed around well, so there's no dry powder in the bottom anymore. It's all stuck to the chicken. Now I have a pressure cooker. I've put a layer of carrots on top, and I'm going to put limes on top of this. You don't have to use a pressure cooker. You can use regular oven and braise them, but it'll take a lot longer, and the flavor won't be quite as good. And now I'm going to show you something you haven't seen before. Instead of putting water in the bottom of this, I'm putting oil. This will keep anything from sticking to the bottom, and it'll also make sure that all of the vapors that cook the chicken are from the chicken, because as this begins to get hot, water from the chicken will come out. It can't evaporate because it's in the pressure cooker. Well, a little bit will come out, but not very much. Most all of the vapors will go right back into the chicken, so they'll have a very concentrated flavor this way. Okay, I'm going to keep arranging these so that they fit into the bottom in a single layer. And this is what you want to see. One smooth layer, almost completely sealed, no chicken stacked up on top of it. Now I'm going to start heating it. I'm going to begin it on a fairly high heat, like 8 out of 10, because you got that cold chicken in there, vegetables, and the thick layer of oil. It's going to take a few minutes to get up to temperature. After 3 or 4 minutes, you start hearing sizzling going on. Then you put the lid on and begin counting the time. You want to see steam venting just like this. So the heat is set quite low. And when the time is up, you lift the lid. Now the skin here is quite gelatinized. You have to let this sit for a while before you remove it, or the whole thing will just fall apart on you. So let it sit like this for 30 or 40 minutes before you transfer it to a container. It's not going to spoil. It's fully cooked. Don't worry about that. Then after they've finally cooled down, you take the chicken pieces out carefully and transfer them to a container for the refrigerator. And this gets passed through a sieve. Running it through a sieve into that separating pitcher directly. Whereas usually you have only a little bit of fat. You've got a lot here in this one. So we're going to pour this off and keep the aqueous phase. The oil layer is going to be discarded. Okay, this is almost entirely the aqueous phase. Because there's so much oil, some oil is going to be in here. Just cover this up with cling film and refrigerate it. After these have sat in the refrigerator overnight and the gelatinized surface has firmed up, you've got a couple of different opportunities to do different things with them. One of them, the simplest, is you can just fry these in a pan with a little bit of oil, or you can even deep fry them and then split them up. I'll show you what that looks like next. Fry them until they're really nicely golden brown. in a pan moistened with just a little chicken fat or butter or oil. I'm going to fry some cubed up bread with no crusts on it. Just want to toast this a little bit. So now, one of the other things you can do is take the meat off of the bone. Just peel it off with your fingers first. Now, when these are crisp, you can hear that they're crisp. You can add about a tablespoon of this concentrated stock with the very bitterish lime in it to this. With the residual heat. The heat from the stove is off. I'm just using the residual heat to mix this together. I've got Jim Beam's double oak, and I'm going to add a little shot of this. How much you add is up to you. Add a good blast though. Remember, the heat is still off. What we're getting here is just the residual heat, enough to get this absorbed onto these bread crumbs, these croutons. Okay. Yeah. Now I've got the meat that was taken off of 3 of the chicken wings. I'm just going to give it first a little coarse chop, make sure they didn't miss any bones or cartilage or anything, and it's the main purpose for this. We're not really looking to chop it finely here, just making sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, they didn't, but you should run a knife through it because you might have missed something. I have the chicken now loaded into the food processor. There's an egg yolk. Here's the bread. There's a clove of garlic, little medium grind pepper, black pepper, and we're going to combine this gently. Don't grind it to a paste, that's enough. Now when you form the meatballs for these, don't press them too tight. Leave them kind of loose, because that will leave them aerated and soft when you're done. Now, once you get to this stage, you can hold it in the refrigerator up until the next day. You can deep fry these, you can pan fry these, you can put them on a skewer and then deep fry them that way. There's lots of possibilities. I'm going to show you just the simplest of all, which is just pan fry a couple of them here. These are best pan fried in butter, so of course begin by melting some butter. Okay, butter's melted. I'm just going to slide all these in, do all of these at once. Turn them over frequently but not constantly. So you want to get good brown on all sides. Then, as I've shown in other meatball recipes, you move them off to the edge of the pan like this, because this will give you the most even heat distribution. It'll take longer to cook this way, but they'll be very evenly cooked.
I'm very pleased to announce the release of Volume 3, The Focus on Food Chemistry. I want to clear up a few things about these 3 volumes. First, they all contain completely different information. There's no duplication, they're not revisions. When I wrote Volume 1, I had 2.5 years of YouTube videos to cover. People had been asking me for the printed list of ingredients for all of those dishes, and so I obliged. There are recipes with stepwise directions and many tips offered throughout, as well as an extensive history of Russian cuisine over the last 1,000 years, but Volume 1 is very different from Volume 2 and 3. In volumes 2 and 3, I only had about 9 months of YouTube recipes to cover in each, so I was able to provide stepwise directions for everything. In volume 2, I included a lot of additional information about cooking and some simple examples of flavor chemistry to set the stage for volume 3. While volume 2 hopefully got you thinking about some of the processes that go on in cooking and how flavors are expressed and sensed at the molecular level, the topic was painted with pretty broad strokes to make it easy to digest. Pun intended. Volume 3 is a milestone of the series, in which I have included an entire introductory course in food chemistry, which is why Volume 3 is about 70 pages longer than Volume 2. And if you just want the recipes, that's okay too. You don't have to read the first few chapters, but if you've ever been curious about what influences tastes and flavors and the rationale for deciding cooking times and temperatures and why things taste different when they're combined in different ways, this book will answer many of those questions. It also paves the way for Volume 4, which will be next year. I'm pleased to announce a new, completely different type of cookbook. If you watch my channel regularly, you know that the recipes I present are usually centered on meat or seafood and seldom vegetarian dishes. This new book is a departure from that norm. Only vegetables, fruits, eggs, and dairy are used in dozens of recipes here. The key here is that these recipes don't taste like typical vegetarian food. This isn't a bunch of salads and bean sprouts wrapped in pita bread. These are completely satisfying, hearty dishes that use the science of food chemistry to produce meat-like aromas and flavors. But don't worry, there's no weird chemicals involved, just ordinary foods and spices that you can get in any grocery store. This really is an entirely new approach. These are flavorful, filling meals produced by a distinctive cooking method and unexpected combinations of ingredients. Once you see how it's done and understand the method, you can apply these preparations to some of your own recipes and transform them into vegetarian dishes too.
Also look for my cocktail book, Cocktails of the South Pacific and Beyond, Advanced Mixology, available through Amazon online.
If you want to know more about my adventures as a chef around the world and have some great laughs along the way, be sure to check out the video tour of my book, 40 Years in One Night. It's up on YouTube right now. Click the link.